Hello, hello, good morning to you all of you here, all of you at home, at your mobile devices, wherever you are. Technology is amazing and it allows us to be connected everywhere. My name is Patrícia Matos. I'm with you at this second and last day of Planetiers World Gathering. And for now, we are going to talk about climate change. We saw that we are doing several things wrong and we need to change because our home is not healthy. Let's talk about our actions influencing precisely climate change and biodiversity. With me, I will have one person here and another person remote. In here with me, Helena Freitas belongs to the Commission responsible for adapting to climate change in the European Union and is the UNESCO Chair in Safeguarding Biodiversity for Sustainable Development. Helena, good morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, please. And remote, we will have Luís Rochartre, is Director for the Forest Solutions Group within the WBCSD. Luís, bom dia. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
Thank you. Helena, I will start with you. What are we doing wrong? We saw a lot of things.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. And congratulations for this achievement. We have been doing a number of wrong things, and the fact is, and we have been addressing them, all of them, in the Sustainable Development Agenda. So the problems are well identified, I think, and that's the reasons why we are here today. But certainly, I would like to address the two major crises that we live nowadays, and one of them certainly climate change, and the other one the biodiversity crisis. And they are both, in my opinion, the most important planet change challenges that we have to address and somehow to face and to win. And the biodiversity, probably have been discussing climate change over, because it is probably the challenge that we are more aware of, and for a number of reasons, and because of the effects are so close to humankind. We can see the effects of climate change all over in different places on the earth, and we see those effects in terms of the farming systems, the major catastrophes that we see in terms of weather, for example, water excess, and also biodiversity. But the biodiversity crisis, unfortunately, is not as close as climate change, and we are not as aware of it as we should. And so I would like to call your attention today for the biodiversity crisis, because this is something so huge, the impact of this biodiversity crisis, that we have really to engage with it and to do something to change. And we are losing, well, at the very minimum, probably one species per day. But the fact is that over the last decades, we lost probably 1 million species.
Wow.
And so 25% of the ecosystems are degraded. And we know that. We know that we are going to lose, over the decade, we expect to lose, also due to climate change, but also many other changes, like, for example, the farming systems, but this probably we'll have time to discuss. We are losing 25% of our ecosystems are so extremely degraded that it will be very difficult to restore. Yeah. Coral reefs, tropical forests, the islands, so many islands are so extremely degraded that we have to move probably populations, communities far from these places. Rivers, freshwater systems, these are ecosystems that changed so much over the last decades, and essentially due to land use, to farming systems, the pressure, many of these pressures we simply chose to do that way, but we could have done differently, and we have time to do it differently.
Do we have time?
We have this decade.
Not
we
much.
have this decade.
Yeah.
And this decade is critical. And that's why I've decided to bring to your attention the biodiversity crisis, because biodiversity is not only the number and the ID of species. If we have like probably still 10 million species all over the planet, but we are losing them every day. And it's not just the fact of losing one species, it's that the species and the combination ecosystems are also essential to bring us what we call ecosystem services, the natural capital that is bring communities a lot of benefits, goods and benefits. Some of them we realize because we have to buy them. We have to buy meat, we have to buy fish, we have to buy timber. But we don't know the price, the cost of services, like, for example, air quality, pollination. Pollinations, for example, at European level, we have lost probably 70% of the pollinators in terms of diversity. When we lose pollinators, we lose pollination as an essential service to give us, for example, food, because food comes out farming systems, and they don't work if we don't have the pollination service. And many other services are essential for our life. And of course, we have solutions, we have tools to deal and to change and to change the world. And that's why this decade is so critical. And my hope is that with all these world movements, engaging with the environment, putting environmental policy at the center of the public policies, engaging compromises, commitments, international commitments. We have at European level now some narrative, a political narrative that looks to be a movement to change. But
Medium.
it's true. But I mean, that's
you say one thing and they do
it's part of it anyway.
Yes.
I don't have time to. I presume that my colleague Luís Rochartre is going to talk about climate change. I left climate change because my feeling is that we have to bring up this biodiversity crisis into all these environmental movements, because it's out of the eyes of, unfortunately, is not as central as it should be, and it is really a critical crisis, because it's not only about losing species, it's about losing natural capital, ecosystem services, and without them we won't survive. It's critical, and we have unfortunately we may have next year one of the big moments to bring up the biodiversity to the attention of the general public and the general policy and the global policy, and I hope we'll manage to have a number of commitments and targets that really work and prevent and start to prevent. And one of the big targets that we have to share as much as we can is to get 30% of the land set aside for nature. 30% of the land set aside for nature. This is our target, and we have to go for it. It has to be our target. Thank you.
It has to be. Thank you, Helena. Luís, what about climate change?
Good morning for everybody. It's a pity that I won't be able to be here with you and to be able to witness what is happening. I want to salute especially Sergio, that was able to put in place what was this amazing event. And for me, it's quite easy to share what will be the stage with Helena. That is a distinguished scholar and thinker regarding this. But in this case, I will be discussing what we understand that it's important for businesses. I know, I don't know, most of you have already seen one cartoon that is now regarding the COVID crisis. There is a big wave, and then after we will have the climate change, and then we'll have the nature wave, where all the big problems will be arising in the future. And that's why I won't be not so focusing so much on the climate change. That is something that we are now aware, and we have a lot, we have set it a lot of solutions for that, but trying to explain better what it's our vision, why it's important for business, the nature agenda. I don't know if I will be able. Okay, it's working. It's
Yes.
amazing, the technology.
Isn't
And
it?
why we need to address this issue? Why we have an urgency regarding the nature loss? What Helena was trying to explain with very thoughtful examples. Why this is important for our life and for our economy and for the mankind. I'm here trying just not to refer what we have as science and base facts that we can show, because this is the more what Helena will be addressing more precisely than me. But I'm here focusing what in the last months we have been publishing and reading regarding what the meaning for this for companies, for business, for the world economy. And we are talking about something that it's now quite important. 2020 was to be the super year for nature, as Helena already mentioned. There was a plan to have a COP for the CBD, for the Convention of Biodiversity. We had also planned the IUCN Congress and a lot of other events, political and scientifically. And I think that what really happened with COVID is that everything that it was planned as public events, they didn't happen, but all the contents were published or are about to be published. Here I bring two of the main documents that we can assess and we can evaluate how important this is. One is from the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum has been developing what they call the New Nature Economy Report series, where they have already published two of them about risks and about what it's really important. And the other one, it's the Gupta report from the UK government, that is following a tradition that the government has to reflect and to publish very meaningful studies regarding what is happening around the world. Let's see if it's still working. Okay, it's not going forward.
It is now.
Okay. What something that is very meaningful. I don't know if you follow the global risk reports that the World Economic Forum publish every year, and this is what has been happening since 2009. And one thing that it's quite important, because as you know, the WEF, it's a business focused organization. It's a platform, a multi-stakeholder, but it's focused on business. And as you can see here, the things that were identified as the major risks for the global economy, for the world, traditionally were more developed under economic or other type of factors. As you can see, the last one that it was published in the beginning of this year, we can see that the majority of the risks that are identified are directly connected with nature and nature issues. Then for the business community, it's more and more important, and we have been identified that we need to manage this, we need to change, we need to transform our processes to have a better approach regarding this. And at the same time, as you can see here, there is a value creation, there is opportunities for business regarding this. This is trying to explain better with a few examples why this is so important for economy. We see that we have here impacts on financial, operational, legal, or reputational. As you can see, the operational here we have a B, and Helena already mentioned why it's so important. One of the ecosystem services that are provided by nature for our needs of food, but at the same time, we see that the impacts are growing, and businesses are looking for a more close way and trying to identify and overcome what are those issues. We have also these risks about legal. The legal ones are related with the regulations that we have set it in place. There are many regions that are more developed on the regulation, but there is a lot of happening regarding these issues, and why business needs to integrate and needs to evaluate and needs to overcome all these challenges. We have built in my organization what we call our business case for nature, and something that is quite important. It's we have a lot of facts. As climate change, we have a lot of facts. Science have already proved that we need to step in and change and transform what we are doing. But what it's now important, and for us it's key on this, is trying to establish as the science-based targets for climate, when we have established that we need to keep the increase of the temperature of the Earth below 2 degrees, and 1.5 it will be the best solution for that. We are now pursuing and trying to define this for nature. It's not so easy because nature, it's very complex. It's not an issue that we will have a figure and we'll have a number, or we have something, it will be more complex, but we are in the process and we are very engaged trying to define really. As we have reached for the climate change, we have this, what we call it, the apex science-based targets for nature, and then we will follow. We are very thoughtful regarding what will be happening in the meetings that will be organized, and they are postponed from this year for next year. But our main message regarding this agenda and what we need, it's that really business as an important role, as an important part of our society, and we need to act, and we need to act now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luís. Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone here has any question. I think we are able to connect with that. But for now, Helena, this is huge.
This is a huge challenge for all of us, and I would like to say that these things and these crises, climate change and biodiversity, are connected to human condition, and whenever we address these challenges, we will address those problems that are also central for humankind, which are poverty, inequality, hunger. So when we preserve ecosystems, when we preserve biodiversity, when we mitigate the climate change impact, we are also approaching the solutions to solve the problems of humankind, as those like inequality and response to poverty.
Helena, but we are still doing the same things.
No, but that's why I would like to bring this. Well, Luís already called your attention for some of the commitments, including in the financial system, that are really very relevant. I mean, as they will help us to engage companies, academy, societies, and because this is a systemic movement. This is a systemic transition. It's very complex. We have to bring everybody and all the systems, the farming systems, forestry, fisheries, the way how we produce, because we need, there's, for example, the agenda of circular economy is so important for us for this transition. The transition is complex, but there's no other way. We have to go this way, and we have to do it together. Decarbonizing the economy, improving the technology to have fast and solutions for the transition of the energy, The digital transition is going to be very helpful also in this process. The process is complex and systemic, and it will need all of us. But we have to come up with common policies, because in the end this is a common good agenda.
But we have some common
We
policies.
have some tools and some solutions.
Yes.
And regarding this, and there's one of the most relevant solutions that is going to come up, and combining the climate change crisis, the response to the climate change crisis and biodiversity, and at the same time is putting the challenge of fighting poverty in the center of the public policy, are the so-called nature-based solutions or nature-climate solutions. But the nature-based solutions are essential, and we have to bring them to the center of the public policies, because these are solutions, and we are very much aware of them, and they will help us to mitigate climate change, and at the same time fight the biodiversity crisis, and bring up solutions also to fight poverty.
What are these solutions?
These nature-based solutions are solutions that are inspired by nature, and they are harmonized with the nature conservation, and we need them. And they are very simple. Of course, from nature, from protection of nature, as I said before, we have to set aside some of the land that is not going to be part of the economic development plans, but we can create jobs and fight poverty when we, for example, when we restore wetlands, when we restore forests, when we preserve coastal ecosystems, and we settle new salt marshes. For example, here in Lisbon, let's work for the restoration of the salt marshes of the Tagus River. Let's plant trees. These are ways, very simple solutions.
It sounds easy. Yes.
Of mitigating climate change, because we have then carbon sequestration, which is also a service of forests. Forests provide an essential service, that is air quality. And carbon sequestration, without that, we cannot pursue our objectives of decarbonizing the economy. So there are a number of solutions. And of course, we have the Green Deal is part of the political narrative that we are fortunate to have at the European level. Let's see. Because of course, this agenda cannot go when at the same time we keep financing, subsidizing those harmful practices in farming systems, in forest systems, in fishery systems. This cannot go together. So we have to somehow to change this kind of policies that are against the Green Deal agenda. But this is part of our challenge too, as society. Communities have to engage and to share the same principles, because we can demand this change. And this is one of the, but just to finish it with this, just to put this at the very center, nature-based solutions. So the solutions that are inspired in the conservation of nature, they are essential, and they can be part of the economic development plan. And they can provide jobs. They can preserve the ecosystems. So they have to be part of it. And they are really important. And I, in my opinion, but probably Luís will help us with these arguments, in my opinion, companies, the banking system, financing systems are realizing that. Because, for example, a very recent report of I believe from the Swiss bank network, published one of these days, was exactly showing that those economies, those countries, and more than 50% of the countries in the world, at the world level, their economies depend on ecosystems, on nature. Without preserving nature, those countries are going to collapse. Their economies are going to collapse, because they cannot provide the essential goods for their populations. You know?
Yes. Luís, how can we get a commitment? from the companies?
Yeah, I fully agree with Helena. Nature has been developing very successful solutions all over many million of years, and now what I think now we have is that we have look for nature and seeing that some natural solutions, as for instance planting trees, now we call it natural climate solutions, and now we have a new narrative, but it's completely focused. What I think it's also very important, it's that we just turn and we evolve for a more bio-based economy around the world, because many of the materials that we use today, and they have high impact on nature and biodiversity, and even in the climate change, we have substitutes, we have alternatives as bio-based. For instance, we can produce viscose. There is a fiber, a textile that it comes out of trees, and we replace the ones that came out of oil. Then we have solutions. We need to increase it, and there, as Helena was saying, the financial sector is more and more engaged on that, and the money available and the money that it will be only spent in sustainable projects are growing, as we can see, and more organizations are now looking very strictly on the conditions of the different investments, and they are quite really specialized investing in sustainable solutions. What I think it's very important is that, stressing what Helena already said, is that we need to build a bio-based economy that will help us to overcome everything, because everything is connected, and when we are addressing climate change, we need to be addressing the nature and the nature urgency, and at the same time, when we are addressing nature, we can be finding solutions for climate change.
And maybe just a final, and to add what Luís was saying, so I very much agree on this. The process is one planet, one health. Even health system, as we are facing nowadays, the pandemics that we face, well, we cannot say, and I'm a scientist, so I won't establish a direct correlation, but it's more and more clear for science that whenever we disrupt, and especially tropical forests, we are opening the entire system for potential diseases for humanity. So all these things are planetary connected. That's why we have to be the Planetiers. I very much like this concept, because we have to keep the planet alive. It's one planet, one health. So whenever we preserve the health of ecosystems, we preserve biodiversity, but we are also preserving the planet capacity to evolve, but at the same time we are preserving our own health. There's no other way. So everything is connected.
Not a second chance.
No, there's not another planet as they used to say.
Planet B, a planet B, like we used to
this
say.
is the planet we have, and it's such a beautiful planet. I mean, we are lucky enough to have such a legacy. We just have to be intelligent, and that's another point I'd like to bring up. We have knowledge, and this is a very important tool. With all the knowledge we have to do something. I mean, it's in our hands. And so this would be, I mean, just the kind of a last message, and thank you very much for being here, but it's one planet, one health. So we should be the Planetiers, because that's the planet we preserve is for all of us and for the future.
Yes. Luís, one final message too, please.
Just to add that this is the only planet we know that has chocolate and wine. Then we need to
that's very important,
very well.
Especially the wine.
Yeah.
Especially the wine.
Ecosystem services, ecosystem goods.
Yeah. Helena already referred what it's really important. I think what we need is to act, and to be active, and to demand, and to ask not only to governments, to companies in our daily life. We need to change our behavior, but we need to be Planetiers.
Thank you, Luís Rochartre and Helena Freitas, for being with us. We will be back in a few minutes. Thank you.